You want answers?
I want the truth!
Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we do a Q&A, and we thank our patrons for supporting such nonsense. So, you guys failed. Utterly, totally, entirely, collectively, comprehensively. You didn't ask a single question I couldn't answer. Yes. I'm disappointed. I'm just playing around. You guys sent in some fun questions, and I'm gonna answer them. I'm gonna display my staggering mental abilities. I'm gonna wow you with pizzazz and flashbang grenades. People actually click on these videos. Let's just go, shall we? Let's go. I don't know. What is that? I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Awkward Burb, have you thought about setting up a Discord? The Discord question. Well, I've prepped one. I have a Discord that I sort of set up like a skeleton of, but I actually have no plans yet on when or if I will pull the trigger on releasing it. The main problem with me stacking social media sites is that I just don't have the time to engage on a bunch of platforms. I would hate to set something up and turn into a no-show just because I can't, or I don't have the time for it. And there might be something coming down the pipe that's going to consume even more of my time and energy in the future. Fingers crossed, actually. But I promise to bring anyone along who wants to come along for the ride. I mean, via social media, not like in my car, unless you're willing to carry stuff. Just a random name 420.
What is your name?
Ignatius Fisher.
What is your quest?
I have so many. I'm a multitasker. Duh. I mean, I guess I'm a multi-quester. I think, if I think about it, I may have one main quest, but it shall remain undisclosed, to be revealed in time.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
20.1 miles per hour. Come on, man, give me a hard one.
Another shrubbery!
Dresden Valerio, 1002. What got you into making your YouTube channel? Was there any one moment that flipped the switch to, oh yes, we're doing this? Well, my YouTube journey started quite a while back. I did a year-long, 104-episode Minecraft Let's Play series back in 2017. I loved playing Minecraft, but I wanted to give myself a reason to play the game, so I didn't feel like I was just burning time, which is exactly why I quit World of Warcraft years earlier. In 2022, the first part of that year saw my day job of freelance video production slowing way down, and I had a lot of free time, and I was being very lazy, and I was depressed and all sorts of things. I was playing video games and watching YouTube and just sort of not living life necessarily. My hobby desk had been gathering dust for years, frankly, and I had given up filmmaking due to depression and massive self-doubt, and the thought hit me once more about how I might be able to force myself to do something if I gave myself some external reason to. I did really want a hobby, and I've always liked sharing my interests and discoveries with people. Yes, I have always been a narcissist. So in the second half of 2022, I started to think about how I'd go about producing a tabletop hobby channel, and then I did it. And I did it with the intention of giving it a solid, honest-to-goodness try. A lot of the time in my life, I know I have tried or done things, creative projects, with I don't know what to call it, maybe the 90%er attitude. Like, I do things with an intentional, but maybe subconscious bit of half-assery baked in, precisely to give myself an out when failing. So upon failing, I can, or could say to myself, well, I didn't really try all the way. In late 2022, with the start of this channel, I've tried, and I'm trying to consciously try hard. I, like everyone else, desperately want to succeed at something. There was one other reason I decided to try hard at making this channel, and it's a ludicrous reason, I'm well aware. Now see that, and it's a ludicrous reason, I'm well aware, is an example of how I try to build in failure compensation. The other reason I put in the reasons to do YouTube basket is that I'm old now, and I have no retirement plan. And I had tried to visualize myself at, say, 70 years old, trying to put beer in the fridge by still doing videography. and it's very hard to see that. So YouTube is my retirement plan. Tabletop alchemy, where the crazy gets dumber. My logic, though, is that nothing happens in a vacuum. So who knows what opportunities might come along because of the channel, right? And that, my friends, is called foreshadowing. Hungry Matador. How would you like to field an entire campaign with 75mm figures? How much do you think it would cost to print figures and maps and terrain? So the quick answers are, I don't think I would, and too much. But upon consideration, the idea of fielding a D&D or TTRPG campaign using 75mm figures is pretty cool. I think it would, if actually put on a table, be very Alice in Wonderland-ish, sort of, as a way of describing something. The terrain scale is what would freak me out the most. I think you would need a lot of table real estate and some way for players to reach into the table across all that real estate. I do think fabricating and painting everything up would be a genius move for a YouTube channel's growth, but probably not mine. I mean, I think it would be a pretty big undertaking. Pun now intended. But, you know, never say never, right? It would definitely be a cool experiment just to even build 1 or 2 pieces of terrain in that scale, just to see what it's like. Paint up some 75mm figures, maybe a 4 or 5 character party's worth, and just see what it's like to work and play on that scale. It's kind of hard for me to imagine it. I think I need to actually like interact with some models on a table at that scale to see what it's like. So I guess I'm going to put it on the list, and we'll see. Norman Lennox 4949. What's your favorite mode of artistic expression? Crafting, mini painting, writing, YouTube videos, Lego? When will you make a sick chimp shirt? Well, first off, sick chimp shirts, I can't even say it. So, let me try again. Well, first off, sick chimp shirts are now available, and also mouthful of grenades. As far as the first question goes, favorite mode of artistic expression, I think video and writing are tied for first place, with photography and mini painting in second place. I wish I had more time for Lego, and crafting is definitely at the bottom of the list. I love it. I love the way it looks, and when people do like awesome terrain, it's fantastic. It's just I don't get nearly as much joy out of crafting terrain as I do out of figures for some reason. Something I could explore in a future video maybe. JShould3, what's one of the greatest life lessons you've learned that stuck with you? Well, that, my friend, is an easy one. If you ain't winning, you learning. That has meant more to me than a lot of other stuff I learned or realized or encountered in life. It really made me feel better about life in general and my own progress through it and my own mistakes and dealing with my own mistakes. That very succinct slogan, it really resonates with me. Probably the strongest of any cliche or slogan I've ever heard. Slogan is not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Whatever these things are called, these cat poster verbiage. Anyway, it just rings of something fundamental to me. R.P. Miller, have you ever considered lighting up your Lego creations? As a matter of fact, not only have I considered doing that, I've been window shopping for a set to start with. I have the Boutique Hotel, and it seems like a set prime for interior lighting, so I might start with that one. But I've also been thinking about picking up some of these Lego LEDs to light up an MDF terrain building, especially a cyberpunk one. I think these might work really well for miniature buildings in general, not just Lego buildings, because they're already wired, they're made for plugging into USB power, and I don't know, I think they just might be a fun thing to try to light up some cyberpunk terrain buildings, of which I have an entire like cyberpunk city block worth of buildings that we'll get to someday on this channel. Anyway, second question is there a crafting material you like working with more than others? Not in particular. I do like how resin sands, and I like how polystyrene is easy to work with, and I like how XPS foam is easy to shape, but that's not necessarily one of my favorites because it's difficult to glue. XPS is easy to shape, difficult to glue, and that to me is kind of a pain. But I do, however, dislike working with foam core, generally speaking, and you know I like my Sintra. And third question, are there any YouTube makers you like to follow or would recommend? For sure. Probably too many to list here, and there's probably a ton that you guys watch that I don't know about. But some of my favorites are, in alphabetical order, Abandoned Miniatures, Christine McConnell, Four Bricks Tall, Juan Hidalgo, Marco Frassoni, Miniature It, Nighthawk and Light, Orion's Belt Minis, Plasmo, Rachel Does Wonders, RP Archive, Runehammer, Sarastros, Tabletop Witchcraft, Tiago Catarino, The State of Play, Vince Venturella, Wormwood, Zyla Foxlin, and Zapixel, actually, is very calming for me to put on and just sort of chill out to. Faces and Bases. With your worldly wisdom, how about a giveaway prize of an hour of consultation on something from your professional or social media background? Well, I don't think my worldly wisdom is worth very much, so I'm happy to try to answer questions via email or possibly on a live stream. I don't know, just reach out, and maybe there's a way we could do a Discord call or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if 100 people reach out, first off, that'll never happen because I don't have enough worldly wisdom for 100 people, but, anyway, I'm down to answer questions as best as I can. Obviously, conversations are sometimes easier to do, but it's hard to block out time for that. Anyway, just reach out. Let's see. Do you have any insights on why 3D technology kind of fizzled out for cinema and home entertainment? Here's a shocker. I never liked 3D movies, and I always thought it was just a gimmick. Way more than anything else. That said, I have no doubt that the future of computing is AR/VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, or as Apple calls it, spatial computing. And when this becomes this, or probably more accurately this, everyone will adopt it. As far as movies go, 3D movies are way more expensive and way more of a pain in the ass to film than 2D movies. And if everything isn't shot in 3D, there's just no reason to have a 3D TV. And then of course, can you have a 3D TV that doesn't require glasses? And that's probably not a thing yet. And it's funny. In a cyberpunk screenplay I wrote like 25 years ago, all computing was done just like this, with a pair of glasses and a little bead stuck on the tip of a finger to act like a mouse. I always figured having windows and icons floating out in an augmented space between the viewer and reality would be the way things go. So right now, it's a heavy set of ski goggles and a huge battery pack, and eventually it'll be a Neuralink clone, and we're all going to be chipped, just like our pets. Gary Jensen, 1326. If your house was on fire, what is the one object you would rescue? All right, this is a good Lost Island sort of question, right? Of course, let's get the obvious out of the way. I am contractually obligated to say Rowan Witchbane. But I'm also contractually obligated to say Rowan Witchbane is not an object. So we're back to square one. Probably my genuine answer is I'd grab a box and shove as many of my external hard drives into it as I could get and go. Ever since I had my first hard drive failure, which was the system drive on a MacBook Special Edition clamshell, which was my first laptop, I had no external storage, so when it failed, I had to rewrite my first produced screenplay from scratch when it was 85% done. Since that event, I've gotten real zen about objects and data, and the loss thereof. The only reason I'd even snatch the hard drives is that on some of them there are photos and videos of my daughters, and those are really the only things I'd want to save. This question comes from a flashcard, apparently. If you could freeze time, what would you do? This is one of those questions that begs parameters and illuminates my frustrating overthinking of shipwrecked on the island type of questions. My ex hated this part of me. Let me rephrase that. My ex really got frustrated with this tendency that I had to overanalyze these questions. Like, could I freeze time multiple times or just once? Either way, I don't know. I think I might have to freeze time just to ponder the question. Azumi, how is our beloved majestic Rowan? Litigious, demanding, and on a constant quest to capture random objects off the hobby bench to play ice hockey with on the floor. In all seriousness, she's about the best cat I could have ever hoped would adopt me, which she did. She was a stray in my apartment complex, likely abandoned by a tenant that moved out of the area. Idiots. I met her almost a year before she came to live with me. She's lived with me for over a year. But we've been tight ever since. She's actually really well suited to apartment living, strangely, and I really couldn't ask for a cooler roommate. Mickey Babick, 8187. Would you do a video of a 1v1 game you fancy with a friend or another creator you know, or a random supernatural unsuspecting entity that happened to be passing by? Short answer is yes. As a matter of fact, I've had this in the list of ideas for quite a while. I actually want to play a skirmish game with someone who's never played a war game before. And I have a candidate. I'm trying to figure out the logistics of how to produce it video-wise. So, it's going to happen at some point. Sir Guy 6678. How would you combine Lego and model pieces to make your own cool miniatures? Well, this will probably disappoint you, sir, but I have a tendency to dislike mixing mediums, or something like that, which I know is a terribly unartistic thing for an artist to say. Like, if I was going to run a D&D game with Lego minifigs, I would want the terrain to be built out of Lego as well. That's my initial reaction anyway, but since I've never actually tried it, maybe I'd think differently once I got into it. Oh, sorry, there was an addendum to that question. Bigger than 28 millimeter. Well, I'd be hesitant to take on Lego builds for a larger scale than 28 millimeter, just because it's so much bigger and things would go up exponentially in the cost of Lego and structural integrity and build time, stuff like that. It would make things, I think, a lot tougher. But on a pretty cool side note, Lego is officially releasing a collectible minifigure Dungeons & Dragons series, as well as a big D&D Castle Dragon set. The set drops in April, and I don't know the release date for the minifigs, but those are going to have to be must-buys for me, and I plan to do some content on here using those things because, hey, now it's officially, D&D branded Lego, or Lego branded D&D, whatever. It's a crossover. And so I can put it on this channel with Abandon, but I bet you're going to see quite a few TTRPG channels jumping on this bandwagon as well. The bandwagon being Lego D&D. I got some plans. Some things I'd like to do. Fun things. We'll see. AKSKASDHFGBHKSDF asks, would you like to collaborate with someone on YouTube? If so, who? Absolutely. Mostly what I find myself wanting to create is some kind of cinematic video, like a short or skit or trailer with various YouTubers in question, like a fantasy or sci-fi short with 52 miniatures, or a comedic skit with mini-acts shot like a Coen Brothers movie, or a Games Workshop-style miniatures commercial with Darcy Bono painted miniatures, or a comedic sword fight fantasy short with Jill Barrett, or a dramatic character death with Runehammer. Dramatic character death with Runehammer. Like a short story sort of a thing that just shows a character, I don't know, some kind of short that ends in a character's death. And I'd love to do it with Runehammer. I think he's got some awesome ideas and fun dramatic chops to bring to the table. Favorite PC console game? So I'm not going to mention Minecraft because we've already covered that. I am a huge fan of The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. I'm a huge fan of that series. I also really like the action and movement and gunplay in Destiny. It's a first-person shooter, and I do like first-person shooters. I used to really like Overwatch, Overwatch 1. I haven't played the second version of Overwatch. And, of course, the Elder Scrolls single-player games. I cannot wait for Elder Scrolls 6. That will be a day one purchase for me. How long is the longest-running TTRPG campaign you've been involved in? So the longest solo campaign I've played was my Shadowrun campaign. I ran it, and we played for over a year at once a week on average, and during the summer when it was slow work, we played like multiple times per week. It was super fun, and it's where I learned how to paint miniatures, and I started collecting miniatures, and I really got into it. It was really great. I actually really liked the Shadowrun game, although that was a second edition, and I haven't played any editions beyond that. And I do like Cyberpunk, and I am really looking forward to playing Reality's Edge, which is a Cyberpunk skirmish game, and that'll give us the reason to paint up all the MDF cyberpunk buildings I've got. Well, thank you guys for sending in some cool questions. I hope you enjoyed the answers for whatever they're worth. So, go negotiate those pet contracts and don't let them take advantage of you. Good luck and Godspeed. See ya.